And start broadcast.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you very much for taking the time to tune in. My name is Andrew Wingfield, and I work with GlobaLinks Learning Abroad. And my guest on the screen is Professor John Hill from University of Queensland Veterinary Sciences Program.
Good morning.
So it is, of course, Wednesday morning right now in Brisbane, Australia, where he is Skyping in from, and we will get started. So John and I are going to both turn off our cameras today, so you'll be able to listen to us. I'm going to do a quick introduction about GlobaLinks and how we work with the University of Queensland, and then the majority of the presentation will be turned over to John, and he will be telling you all about the Vet Sciences program.
Okay.
All right. So a little bit about who GlobaLinks Learning Abroad is. We are a states-based study abroad organization that does a number of programming, study abroad internships, and full degree programs overseas. We've been around since the late 1980s, and we are appointed by our university partners abroad to help with their recruitment efforts. Which is why we are able to then offer application services to you at no charge. We're here to be able to advise students on being able to apply for programs with our degree partners. So for example, if you have interest in applying for UQ's Vet Science program, you are invited to be in contact with our office, and we can, working closely with our colleagues like John, we're able to advise you on basic program requirements, how to put together your application, all the supporting documents that you need to turn in and submit. And we submit all of that information on your behalf and communicate regularly with the University of Queensland and our other partners regarding the status of your application and any other questions that you have. We're also able to certify academic transcripts. So if you were to, for example, apply to more than one university, you would only have to submit one set of official transcripts, and we are able to certify and send out those copies on your behalf, so that saves you time and money. Many of our partners will also give us application fee waivers, which is another way to save students money. And because of the close working relationship we keep with our university partners and their admissions offices, we are often able to realize faster admissions decisions for students. I think the final big plus of working with us is that we do give you access to our Bridging Cultures Orientation program, and I realize that I have excluded that slide, so my apologies, but I will give you a bit of information about that. The Bridging Cultures program takes place at the beginning of your program, so you would arrive in Australia before the start date. You'd have several days in country where you will be with other students from Canada and the US to be able to learn about the country, the culture, the history, things like how to get around, how to use your cell phone, in addition to doing a lot of sightseeing and fun activities. So you're able to network with other students, meet your on-site support staff, and otherwise get your feet wet and get a nice foundation before you then transition to your university of choice for your university-specific orientation and the start of your term. So that is GlobaLinks in a nutshell. You'll notice we've got, I'm happy to take your questions, so you can type those into the webinar software as we're going along, and at the end of it we will take time to read the questions aloud, and John will be able to answer those for you. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Professor John Hill.
Well, thanks very much, Andrew. Our veterinary campus is in Australia and based in the state of Queensland, which is a tropical area, and I speak to you on a Wednesday morning in the middle of winter, and yet it's clear sunny skies, not unlike this photograph here, which in fact was taken in winter a few years ago. It's a beautiful area. Australia is a very friendly place, and that translates to the state of Queensland environment, and indeed where we are on a rural campus. The University of Queensland has several campuses, and we're located on the Gatton campus, which is 1 hour's drive west of Brisbane, west of the main University of Queensland campus, which is based in the suburbs of Brisbane. So we have a delightful 1,500-acre campus, which is again very accommodating, friendly, easy to get around. The entire mood is welcoming, and the enjoyment factor of being in a cohort on campus is rated highly by our students. It's a campus that is focused on veterinary, animal, agricultural sciences, and has around about 1,400 students on campus. The main campus in Brisbane, the main University of Queensland campus, has over 30,000 students. So if I can first of all say that the University of Queensland is ranked in the top 100 of universities worldwide, and our veterinary program is also globally ranked because it's one of only a minority of veterinary programs that has accreditation from the American Veterinary Medical Association, the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, and veterinary boards in the UK, Europe, and of course Australia and New Zealand. So it's a globally accredited, globally recognised program. So we'll move on to the next slide, Andrew. To summarise our history, the veterinary program began in 1936, and since then University of Queensland has produced many thousands of veterinary graduates, well over 3,000, and we know that they work worldwide and 53 countries at least, throughout Asia, through Europe, and indeed through North and South America. The cohort that you'd expect to be a part of, we have 120 per year. And generally that's made up of, as this photo says, 85 Australian, New Zealand nationals and 35 international students. So it's a great cohort. It's 120 it gives you a chance to meet each other, know each other, and develop as a cohort with really strong peer support. There's a lot of very experienced staff to take care of you, well over 150 staff. And it's a research active veterinary school, so we have 90 or around about 90 graduate students. So it's a veterinary program informed by research and with a very strong teaching history. The next slide, please. So just to go back through the accreditation status, the University of Queensland veterinary program was fully accredited to a global standard in 2012 when we sought and were awarded AVMA accreditation, which enables North and South American accreditation. We've previously been accredited for many years by the UK and European groups through the Royal Veterinary College, and of course we have Australia New Zealand accreditation. So that means that your degree, your veterinary degree from University of Queensland, enables you to practice pretty much worldwide. These different accreditations are the only accreditations for veterinary degrees, so that means that your degree from University of Queensland will be recognised wherever you'd like to practice. When you want to go back and practice in North America, then you take the national and state exams just as any graduate does from US or Canadian veterinary schools. And next slide, please. So when we point out the benefits of UQ Veterinary Science, there's 5 dot points there, and they're things that are aimed at really the key characteristics that you want to find in a degree, and certainly in a veterinary degree. So you're looking for a job, a position at the end of that degree. So more career options is what we train for. We want to train people for the broadest career opportunities, which of course includes clinical veterinary practice, and we have a science-based curriculum, which means that you are well able to fit into many other positions, whether that's government or industry positions predominantly, and take the career of your choice throughout different species, through veterinary practice in different species, or go on to research, So we train across broad species, dogs, cats, dairy cattle, beef cattle, different horse practices, exotic animals, and so small ruminants. So you get the broad experiences and the background to really open up the career opportunities for you. How do we do that? And that's how, through teaching excellence, we really pride ourselves on the quality of our teaching and the mentoring that goes with that, so that you're developed from year 1 through to year 5, and you can meet your potential through some very individual tailored teaching experiences. The campus at Gatton has that complete package. It's a rural campus based with in a farm area, and with animals surrounding you: dogs, cats, cattle, horses, and a broad farm. And then we use our research to underpin our teaching excellence, and then of course I've talked already about the international accreditation of the degree. So next slide, please, Andrew. So again, if you've got any questions, please type them in, and we can stop at any time to answer those. Sorry, we've got a double slide there, so we'll keep going to the next one. So just to look at this photo again, this is a picture of the veterinary hospital. We've got cattle in the foreground. Just above those cattle is the veterinary hospital, which is a small animal and large animal hospital. So general practice and specialist, small animal and equine and other large animal species. But this picture is of the dairy cattle. We've got a 250 head dairy, as you can see, right adjacent to the campus, or within the campus and right adjacent to the veterinary teaching hospital. And indeed the other teaching areas are just out of picture to the right of this photo. So you're in a wonderful environment. It's relaxed, but it's a very good learning environment to suit your needs in developing your veterinary career. On site, there's full facilities. The campus facilities are excellent. The lecture theatres, the teaching areas are really top class. Most of them have been renovated or are brand new. On-site accommodation is there. There's dormitory accommodation for over 300 students, and then the other students live in surrounding towns where there's a good supply of rental accommodation, and again a safe, welcoming environment that's only an hour away from the state's capital city of Brisbane, and about 40 minutes from another major centre, Toowoomba, which is 200,000 people further west. So you're in between larger towns, and certainly the capital city is within easy reach, within an hour's reach to the downtown area of Brisbane. Next slide, please. Entry requirements. Now, if you're thinking of applying, the key thing to know is that the entry requirements, academic requirements, are high, as you'd expect in any veterinary school around the world. So you need to have a very good academic background, and then the actual course requirements. We do require that you have English, of course, and chemistry, and then maths, and then either physics or biology as your high school or college entrance courses. And the University of Queensland admissions group can help you with working out whether your particular courses meet the requirements of for entry into the program. So ranking is by academic performance. At present, there are no interviews. The ranking is by academic performance, and so that it's reasonably straightforward to gain entry with very solid scores of generally for international students it'll be 94, 95 or above. So very solid, high performing academically. It's a very competitive program. And in general, the entry age varies from some school leavers, so sometimes 18 or 19 years old, but the average age is in the early 20s. So next slide, please. So let me just backtrack a little to my own experiences, and these are some of either my own animals or animals that I've seen as a veterinarian, and you know, what is it about veterinary science that attracts you? And it's probably a love of animals and a wide variety of species, and coupled with that, an interest in working with people, you know, the owners of the animals. So what we need to develop and see in prospective students is a real desire to help animals, as well as a desire to work with people, their owners. So we'll be developing your people skills as well as your animal skills. So next slide, please. And you can keep hitting for a couple of times there, Andrew, because there's a variety of species there culminating in one of my favourite horses. So what facilities will you use during your time at University of Queensland? Well, we relocated to this campus at Gatton in 2010, which means we've got entirely new or thoroughly renovated facilities. So here are some photographs, in fact, from 2010, 4 years ago, showing these facilities when they're brand new. They're still very much a new appearance, and these are four of our teaching areas: the veterinary science building, the entry area up on the top left, lovely welcoming open space where you'll come in as students to register, and that's our front office basically. The Veterinary Medical Centre on the right, state-of-the-art building, $25 million veterinary hospital. It includes all the facilities, of course, for very high standard clinical care, and the ability to teach and for you to learn the clinical skills that you'll need. And you will actually be spending time in the Veterinary Medical Centre and the teaching hospital from semester one, when we start you working with professional skills and learning the consulting process and working with people, and also working with in clinical situations. You'll be doing a lot of work in the bottom two areas: the Clinical Study Centre, where you learn, again, clinical skills in a very modern, open environment. And then we have multiple teaching laboratories, like in the bottom right. That's actually the anatomy lab, which is a clean, very well ventilated space. So we have 3 labs like that, where you're either learning anatomy, or in dry labs, microscopy and microbiology, physiology. They're very high quality facilities. Next slide, please. The support that we offer you, I think, is quite defining of the environment that you'll find. We develop a peer group through a buddy system. We start you off in week 1 or in day 1 with the Veterinary Leadership Program, which in fact is US based. It comes out of Iowa, and we engage with that program. We have tutors who go to Iowa and learn the latest in veterinary leadership programs for veterinary students. And so we teach how to get on, how to develop peer groups. We integrate your year group very quickly so that you can form study groups. It helps you socially and in your professional career to work closely with your peers, develop friendships, develop working relationships, and break down barriers that inevitably are there when we have 120 students arriving not knowing each other. So we very quickly develop friendships and peer groups, so that by the time you start, you know, a week later after this program, then you're feeling confident that you're a part of a group already and part of veterinary science at UQ. Next slide, please. So some pictures to illustrate the very comprehensive curriculum, which is aimed to give you the skills that you need to graduate and we have day one skills. So day one is day one after graduation. So after graduation, on your first day in practice, imagine that after the 5-year course, you are expected to have particular skills in people management, in animal management, the broad variety of skills, and we develop those from day one of your program so that when you graduate on day one, you're ready and able to participate in the position, the job of your choice. And next slide, please. Again, illustrating the variety of activities that are underway. In terms of the makeup of our students, generally where each year group has a majority of females, 80 to 85% females. That seems to be the case certainly North America, UK and Australia, that's the general case. A broad variety of backgrounds and indeed ages. The ages vary from 18 through to 40. So you have a variety of backgrounds, people that have got prior degrees, bachelor's degrees. We always have 1 or 2 or 3 with PhDs in each year, perhaps law degrees, other degrees. It's a great cohort with a variety of backgrounds and skills, so you can utilize those skills of your peers as you're moving through the curriculum. The next slide, please. In terms of the skills that we do help you to acquire, broadly these are problem-solving, decision-making skills, and that's developed again right from day one. Your ability to solve problems and ultimately presented with animals with unknown diseases, and you need to make key decisions about the treatments of those animals using the expert knowledge that we do help you to acquire throughout your program. So you'll be great problem solvers at the end of the program. You need to be decisive, and you develop that ability to be a decision maker and utilize the quite vast amount of expert knowledge that you'll acquire throughout the course, and indeed acquire either through our teaching, and we also promote self-learning, which is incredibly important. We develop the ability in our graduates to be independent and able to acquire new knowledge and continue that approach throughout their career. Next slide, please. Where might you end up working if you imagine yourselves at the end of the veterinary program? So here's this variety of programs, a variety of jobs and positions that you could take in veterinary private practice through a huge range of animal-focused areas, and then in government, industry, and perhaps even in research as well. Next slide. So the actual program leading into what you would study early on, we have animal management and handling right from the very beginning. You're working with animals from the first semester of your program, and learning about the animals, working with them, and then also immediately working on mechanisms of disease. And as I said before, interpersonal skills are developed, professional skills are developed from the first semester, communication skills, which is absolutely essential to your career. And then that's built upon in the next year when you get into more advanced work with pathophysiology and medicine and the actual disease processes. And that also includes systems approaches to agricultural businesses, so that you understand how it is that agriculture and animal production enterprises are able to make a profit, and how you as a veterinarian could contribute to that enterprise. Next slide, please. And it's a 5-year course at Veterinary Science at Queensland. So your 4th year really is a preclinical year where the capstone courses where you're focusing on medicine, surgery, the clinical sciences, and then taking that that knowledge into fifth year into your clinical rotations where you, the entire year you're working with animals, with either production animals in production enterprises or with animals presented to the veterinary hospitals and for either treatment or preventative work, vaccinations, desexing and the like. So a wide variety of cases. We work with not only our own veterinary hospitals but also with the SPCA, the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. They have a that's one of our partner groups, so there are opportunities within our standard course that you'll be exposed to the widest variety of cases and animals to really build your clinical and professional skills in your final year before graduation. And next slide, please. The weekly timetable is really to remind you that it's a very intensive course and a lot of study is required. With that effort comes a lot of satisfaction. So it requires a lot of effort, a lot of input, including spending some of your vacations doing practical work on farms and on animal enterprises, and of course during the clinical stages of your program you'll be working in veterinary clinics, veterinary hospitals during some of your vacation time. So it's intensive but very satisfying, and you're supported all the way through. The next slide, please. So here's 5 of our graduates from several years ago. Friendly faces. They've got through the program. They were only a couple of months away from graduation when we took that photo. They've enjoyed themselves. Over 3,000 of our graduates have enjoyed themselves. So we would absolutely welcome you to come and join us in our veterinary program. So thank you very much. And I'll hand over to Andrew, and we'll take any questions, I think.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Professor Hill. If anybody has questions, please type those in. And I see that Julia has submitted a couple, so we'll be looking at those. Julia wants to know if your location at Gatton would include any, I guess, what we North Americans would deem exotic animals like kangaroos or koalas.
We absolutely. The short answer is yes. That's where we are. I wouldn't say we're in the bush, but we're on a 1,500-acre farm. We're surrounded by farmland, and so yes, there are kangaroos around us, and it's quite a lovely area.
Wonderful. Julia also wanted to know, you were talking about admissions criteria earlier, and I think in Australian terms you were asking, you said that most students are somewhere around a 94 or 95% average. Do you know off the top of your head, Professor Hill, what that would equate to on a 4.0 scale?
Yeah, that's right. We translate the 4.0 through to the 100 scale. I would have to get more information on that, Andrew, and because I wouldn't want to give a value that would discourage people. I have typed this question to Julia, and for those of you listening, Julia is one of Professor Hill's colleagues that's also listening, and so we're researching that to find out the exact answer. In general, it tends to be a 94, 95%. In Australia, it tends to be around a 3.7 or 3.8 on a 4.0 is my typical experience. We will clarify, though, and send out the precise entrance level that they're looking for so that you can know. But to the professor's point, it is like all vet sciences programs, quite competitive, and so meant to be for excellent students. So another question regarding the February 2015 intake. What is the preferred application deadline, or is it rolling admissions, or is it a hard deadline? To my knowledge, it's a rolling admissions, and I think that the main deadline is the actual enrolment prior to February beginning, which is. If we're looking at next February, then the key admissions period would be December. But it's a rolling admissions where you're welcome to apply at any stage.
Excellent. And I'll add to that since I assume that everybody that is attending today is from either Canada or the U.S., of course there's the extra time that's required to apply for a student visa and all of that. So our recommendation for most February intake programs is to try and have a completed application to us by October. Of course, you do have later, as Professor Hill said, but time becomes of the essence, and so we do find that more time allows for more opportunities to feel prepared before you go.
That's a good comment. Yep, absolutely agree.
Is there another question? Is an interview part of the application process?
No, it is not currently part of the application process. No plans to introduce interviews. This is consistent with the University of Queensland's overall policy of using academic entry, and so it simplifies the process somewhat. There are the aspects of the prerequisite courses, subjects that you need to address, but there won't be an interview.
And a related question, do you require any standardized test scores, such as the MCAT or the GRE?
No, we don't.
Excellent. I think, and I'll speak to that a little bit, to the North American students that are in attendance. This is typically something that North Americans find surprising just because of the way the admissions process often goes on our continent. It really is quite an equitable and transparent process to most Australian programs, regardless of the discipline or even the high prestige of the university and the program, as is this one. So we will send you the minimum GPA that 95 signifies, but otherwise, that's one of the nice things about it. If you do meet the course, the credentials that were stated earlier in this presentation, if you've completed those and done well and have an overall strong GPA, then your admissions outlook is positive. All right. I do not see that I have any other questions. Does anybody else have anything they would like to pose? Professor Hill, do you have any parting? Oh, here's so here. This is actually quite pertinent. We've got a few of this stuff listed out for us, so we can take a look at that. Professor Hill, do you have any other parting comments that you'd like to make?
I guess I would really emphasize the quality of the program and the associated enjoyment that all the students, almost the vast majority of students, absolutely enjoy their time because of the amount of support that they receive, both from the veterinary school staff and from their peers, and the cohort, the very strong sense of belonging to a group is quite remarkable, and that's something that we aspire to, and we think that encourages the professionalism that a veterinarian needs throughout their career, in that you need to get on well with your colleagues and to develop these peer support networks so that you can work within teams very effectively and support each other through your career. So we build that from day one, and I think that's probably the defining characteristic, other than the knowledge and skills that you acquire, is how that cohort's developed throughout the program.
Certainly, and I would think as well would be very much a draw to students that are considering making the move halfway across the world, to know that they've got an instant community of peers to support them and care about them, to be their friends as well as their colleagues. Excellent. Oh, I see that we have a couple other slides. Do you know, Professor Hill, are there other slides beyond this one?
Oh, these were just background slides, and really they're orientated towards those who want to do pre-veterinary degrees. If you are not able to achieve the grade point average, then these represent the other options, particularly aimed at Australian students, where they undertake a Bachelor of Science degree, and with the goal to do very well in those degrees and upgrade their GPA so that they can get admission into the veterinary program. So in other words, it's a little like the US system, where you undertake the equivalent of a college degree to gain the GPA to get into veterinary school. The only difference is that you may only need to do 1 or 2 years of the Bachelor of Science degree, which would enable you to upgrade your GPA. So that's the different pathways that Australian students use, which are also open to international students as well.
Excellent. There we go. So a final question too, or maybe perhaps final, but Julia's asked another question. She wants to know what it's like to live on the Gatton campus. So perhaps Professor Hill, you can talk a little bit about what it's like to live there, and then also a bit more about connectivity with Brisbane and some of the other nearby communities, and kind of the general quality of life that students can expect while studying there.
Well, on campus, you'd expect to have great educational facilities, and there are. Then beyond that, the college, the campus has dormitories, and they're high quality. The food is actually quite excellent. The cost of accommodation is remarkably inexpensive. It's around about $8,000 per year, 8,000 US. For accommodation and food for the year, which
wow,
compared to our downtown campus in Brisbane is about half the price. So you've also got great sporting facilities on campus, sporting ovals, gymnasium, very high quality 25-metre pool. So there's a great awareness to encourage after hours activities, physical activities, social activities, of course, are very prominent on the calendar, and so hence you see these 5 fourth-year students from a few years ago smiling broadly. They do enjoy their life. The background there is part of the campus, part of the dairy farm, and then they have an opportunity to get part-time work either in the district or to one of the larger cities. For example, Brisbane. There are still quite a few students work in Brisbane in veterinary hospitals, veterinary clinics part-time. So the access to Brisbane is via your own car, or there's transport. There is public transport available. There's also a university bus shuttle that goes directly from this campus to the campus in Brisbane. That takes about an hour and 20 minutes. And that's Wi-Fi connected, a good high quality coach, not a bus. And so that makes getting into town relatively easy and stress-free. The roads themselves, highways, they're dual carriage highways, so 4-lane roads into Brisbane, and so easy access. We don't have a train service from here, but there's train from the next town towards Brisbane, which is about half an hour away.
Excellent. And I can add to that, having very recently visited Brisbane. I did not make it to the Gatton campus, unfortunately, but Brisbane is the 3rd largest city in Australia and just has a phenomenal quality of life. It's with the reverse, with the reverse hemispheres, it's the heart of winter there. And Professor Hill, what did you say that you expected the temperature to be today once it warms up?
Yep. It was a little chilly early, but it'll get into the 20s. This is where are we? Late July, so it'll be in the 20s, probably mid to high 70s today. It was 24 yesterday. If you want to go to the beach, the famous Queensland beaches, they're another hour beyond Brisbane, so that's 2 hours from here, and you could be surfing at Surfers Paradise. So there's a lot of areas in terms of enjoyable day trips and stays where you've got great access to southeast Queensland, which is recognised as a very desirable tourist area in its own right.
Absolutely. You touched on a couple of points too that I'll point out about for that's pertinent to international students that are considering making this leap is the university is able to accept Canadian provincial aid. You'll need to check with your specific province if you're a Canadian student. That will be capped at the level that would be equivalent to attending vet school in your province or nearest province with a vet school. And then you can seek private loans to supplement that. For Americans listening to this, you can apply for U.S. federal financial aid. You do the FAFSA just like you would if it were a U.S. institution. So that makes it really nice to be able to meet your need. Likewise, students on a student visa in Australia are able to legally work while in country without obtaining extra work status. And so a U.S. or Canadian student on a student visa in Australia can work up to 40 hours every 2 weeks, and that is while school is in session. And then during the major holidays and breaks, you're allowed to work up to 40 hours a week. Australia has a very strong economy currently and has weathered the global economic downturn quite well. The minimum wage is quite high. I believe it's upwards of $15 an hour. So that is something that you can factor in a bit if you are thinking about pursuing this, that you will have some ways to support yourself financially. Excellent. Well, I do not see additional questions from anybody in the audience, so I will go ahead and start to wrap this up then. If any of you listening do think of other questions that you would like to ask, then by all means, please let us know. You'll see I'm showing my computer's having a difficult time loading, but if it does load the next screen, you will see our contact information, which is info@degreesoverseas.com. And that will allow you to access, and we are more than happy to help provide you with an application to the University of Queensland to help answer any questions that you have about the application process, and to likewise connect you with our colleagues over there at Gatton and in Brisbane about any questions you might have. So thank you. Sorry, it seems like I've lost my presentation, but we are at the end. So thank you very much for attending. And there we go. There you see another email address and a toll-free number you can reach us from Canada and from the States. Professor Hill, thank you very much for your time and for all the great information. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you all those for listening. And we welcome any further inquiries that you might have.
Alrighty. Take care, everybody, and thanks again.